Mindy Urhlaub, author of Last Nerve, a memoir of illness and the endurance of family. Welcome to the studio, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I understand that you came here all the way from San Francisco, and I'm curious what takes you here to Boston?
Actually, I had a fantastic opportunity to speak in front of a bunch of biotech people last night at an event that was sponsored by a company called Alexandria and by ALS TDI, a lab that just does research into ALS. And they hosted a book talk for me in front of a bunch of scientists who are all working on the cure for ALS.
With regards to your book, Last Nerve itself is so honest and raw, and yet it's remarkably hopeful. And so I'm curious, how did you hone in on a voice that could exude both pain and resilience simultaneously whilst you were writing it?
You know, I think the idea is like to do your best to tell the truth, right? And so I carry a gene for a fatal neurodegenerative disease for which there is no cure. I've lost several members of my family to this disease, and yet science is just on the cusp of solving this problem. And there were a lot of things going on in my life when I got this diagnosis that were really hard, but things turn out okay, and sometimes the hardest things actually turn out okay. And even when they don't turn out okay, there's no reason to despair, because what are you going to do otherwise, right? I mean,
of course. With regards to the contents of the book, when you discovered that you carried the ALS gene, how did your outlook personally on life shift?
Well, at the time that I found out that I would carry this gene, I actually was caring for my husband who had stage 4 lymphoma, which meant he was going through chemotherapy, and my mother had ALS. She was dying of this disease, and I was flying across the country multiple times a month to care for her and to be with her in her last days. And then I had a son who had to be committed to a residential treatment facility. So when I got this diagnosis, I didn't even really think about it. I mean, I was kind of like, I have other fish to fry. I can't think about this. I got to get my head down and just get through all these things. And my husband actually survived. He's actually doing well. My son is living independently. He's doing really well. My mom goes, to the place where the best of us go. And once those things started kind of calming down, then I really could throw myself into activism.
That is incredible. And I applaud the fact that you say that you felt as if you were able to almost like you had so much going on from different directions, and yet it all sort of had to do with one another in a way. And I applaud the idea that you pushed your own diagnoses to the side in order to be there for the ones that you love.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think anybody would do that. I mean, I think, if you don't mind my saying, women are kind of poised to do this. We're socialized to do this kind of thing. So I think it's in our DNA to do that. Yeah. I think that's what we do for the people that we love.
Of course. No, I would agree with you. Yeah, and I think that's incredible. And within that, you have converted personal struggle into public advocacy. Not even just with your book, you have an organization. You're co-founding the patient-led organization and the Legacy. So tell me a little bit about that. What do you wish that more people understood about ALS, and what were some of the challenges that you faced within your advocacy?
Well, everyone talks about how rare ALS is. It actually really isn't that rare. It's, like 1 in 400, 1 in 300 people will get ALS. But the genetic community is only 10 to 15% of that, of ALS people. So we're kind of people consider us a rare part of a rare disease, but, really there's a lot of us out there. And the Legacy, it exists because our founder, Jean Swidler, and her co-founder, Daniel Barvin, had this idea that the genetic community needed a place for itself. And so that's why we exist, and yeah, I'm proud to be part of it.
What have you learned from the people you've worked with within your organization?
Oh, just like, there's so much you can do. There's so much you can do to help others and to help yourself. I mean, I learned about enrolling in clinical research, longitudinal studies. I learned how to testify before the NIH and the FDA. I learned how to be part of the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine to put together a report on how to make ALS a livable disease. This group and the legacy, this group of genetic carriers, it's just like a powerhouse of information and, just an enormous amount of love for each other. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful. I genuinely applaud that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. What message do you hope that readers take away from your story?
I'm going to be 56 in a week. I'm part of, the sort of sandwich generation where I could be caring for a parent, I could be caring for a spouse, I could be caring for a child or multiple children. I could be sick myself. A lot of us are. And when the chips are down, I really think the idea is to just love the world harder. Think outside yourself, live your life louder.
100%.
Celebrate bigger.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I think that's what you got to do when everything is, when everything's stacked against you like that.
Look to the light and look to what's around you.
Totally, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. How can readers support your mission in finding a cure to the disease of ALS?
It's pretty easy. For example, the organization that I was partnering with last night, ALS TDI, is a fantastic organization. All they do is research on ALS. And check out endthelegacy.org, my website, mindyurhlaub.com, and at MindyWrites1 on Instagram.
Thank you so much for your time, Mindy, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.